want to be precise in this episode because we're going into a territory where people overclaim constantly, where the internet has turned real observations from serious traditions into clickbait about decalcifying the brain with lemon juice. I'm not going there, and I'm also not going to dismiss what the traditions were pointing at, because they were pointing at something real, something documented, something that shows up consistently across thousands of years and dozens of cultures in people who had nothing in common except the practice. The clarity that comes during a serious fast is not imaginary. The sharpening of the perception and the vivid dreams and the shift in what the mind can access, these are reported so consistently across so many traditions for so long that they do require an explanation. So today, let's go look for one carefully, right? 6 episodes, we started with the convergence, why every tradition did this, the biology, what the body does hour by hour, the psychology, what hunger exposes, the ancestral layer, what the body inherited, the mythology of food, what surfaces when the management system goes offline, and the protocols, timing, pairing, breaking. Today, the layer where all of that was building towards. The traditions were not fasting for their health. They weren't optimizing their metabolism. They weren't after body composition. They were after something they described as a clearing, a lifting of fog, a restoration of something they believed was present in the human from birth and had been obscured by the accumulation of comfort, stimulation, and appetite. They called it different things: the inner light, the third eye, the ajna, the seal that hunger could burn away. But what were they actually describing? So let's start with the biology. Deep in the center of your brain, between the two hemispheres, outside the blood-brain barrier, sits a structure about the size of a grain of rice, the pineal gland. Rene Descartes called it the seat of the soul in the 17th century. His reasoning was almost every structure in the brain comes in pairs, one on each side. The pineal is the one unpaired structure he could identify, so he concluded it must be where the unified mind meets the body. Modern neuroscience knows more and claims less. Here's what's been documented. The pineal gland's primary known function is producing melatonin, the hormone that governs your sleep-wake cycle, your relationship to light and dark, and the quality and depth of your dreaming. See, melatonin production is light sensitive. Light at night suppresses it almost immediately. Darkness triggers its release. The pineal is essentially a biological clock, translating the light information it receives from the environment into hormonal signals that time your entire physiology. Now, here's what the research shows happens when you age, when you live in a way that disrupts this system. The pineal calcifies. Calcium deposits accumulate in the tissue. In 2025, meta-analysis found pineal calcification detectable in over 60% of the adult population. The calcification correlates with reduced melatonin output. Reduced melatonin correlates with disrupted sleep, impaired dreaming, increased risk of neurodegenerative condition. The mystics called this the closing of the inner eye. The modern data describes it as progressive functional decline of the primary light timing organ. Different words, but the same direction of loss. Now, what fasting does in the system. When you fast, when the insulin drops and the metabolic switch happens, your sleep architecture changes. Studies on time-restricted feeding and extended fasting show improved sleep quality, deeper slow-wave sleep, and the most relevant is measurable increases in REM sleep. REM sleep is where the most emotionally vivid and the complex dreaming happens. The brain during REM is activated in ways that resemble waking, but with the analytical filtering prefrontal cortex partially offline. The result is the access to the cognitive and emotional material that is normally suppressed by the waking mind's management system. This is why fasters across every tradition reported the same thing. The dreams get louder, more vivid, more meaningful, more strange. Not because fasting creates supernatural experience, but because fasting creates the biological conditions for deeper REM, and the brain takes that opportunity to process what has been waiting. And there's a second mechanism. The sunlight during the day, exposure to natural light cycles, drives a sharper melatonin rise at night. Fasting practices were historically embedded in natural light environments. The desert fathers in their caves at least had the rhythm of dawn and dusk. The Ramadan practitioner waking up before sunrise is interacting with natural light timing. The modern person fasting while staring at a screen in an artificial lit room is working against the biological mechanism the traditions were working with. Light hygiene is part of the protocol. The melatonin system and the dream life it governs responds to natural light and dark in ways that artificial light disrupts. Now, the esoteric layer, and I want to be precise here. In Hindu and yogic tradition, the ajna chakra is located at the midpoint between the eyebrows. Ajna in Sanskrit means to perceive or to command. It's described as the center of intuition, inner knowing, and perception beyond the five ordinary senses. The sixth of the seven primary chakras. The point where the three major energy channels of the body, Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, converge before rising to the crown. In Buddhist, the urna, the circular mark on the forehead of the Buddhist statues, marks exactly that point. A symbol of enlightened perception appearing to the Buddhist scripture since the 2nd century CE. The Buddha describing as shining light from the center to illuminate distant worlds. In Egyptian tradition, the Eye of Horus. In Sufi tradition, the heart of the perception, the inner eye of the soul. In the Christian mystical tradition, the single eye that makes the body full of light. Same anatomical location, same description of function. The capacity for perception beyond ordinary sensory input, inner knowing, direct apprehension, the sense of seeing clearly, not more information, but different quality of awareness. What the tradition shared was this: the ajna, the inner eye, is present in everyone, but in most people it's fogged, covered, sealed by the constant stimulation of appetite, sensation, opinion, and noise. By the management of discomfort with food, with distraction, with endless provision of comfort that the modern world has specialized in. And hunger, the deliberate, intentional absence of the primary comfort, was the tool they used to thin the fog. Not to achieve something extraordinary, but to recover something ordinary. The native clarity of a mind that is not constantly being managed. Here's where I want to be most careful, because there are two ways to misread what traditions were describing. The first misread is that the clarity is purely chemical. Ketones, BDNF, better REM sleep, improved melatonin output. That's it, nothing more. The second misread is the clarity is supernatural. Metaphysical access to hidden knowledge, psychic vision, Akashic record, right? Extraordinary states beyond the biological. I think both are incomplete. The clarity the traditions describe is real and documentable. People who fast seriously report it consistently. Researchers can document at least some of the biological components, the ketone shift, right? The BDNF increase, the improved sleep architecture, the deeper REM. Those mechanisms are real. But the traditions were also describing something that the biology alone doesn't fully account for: the quality of attention, the ability to be present with something without immediately managing it, the capacity to sit with what surfaces during the fast, during the dream, during the quiet after the anchor has been held long enough, and receive it without flinching. The capacity is not exclusively neurochemical, it's cultivated. It's a result of repeated practice of sitting with discomfort enough times that the flinching response weakens. of giving the mind an anchor enough times that it no longer panics in the empty space, of clearing the fog consistently enough that the native quality of the awareness beneath it begins to be recognizable. The traditions call that native quality the inner light, the open third eye, the unsealed instrument. Whether you give a theological name or not, the experience of the mind that has been consistently trained to not flee its own quiet is genuinely different from the experience of a mind that has not. The difference is what the traditions were pointing at. The fasting was one of the most reliable tools they found for creating the conditions in which that the difference becomes perceptible. So here's the final piece, right? The traditions didn't say the pineal was the seal. They said comfort was the seal. The seal on perception is not a physical blockage in a gland. The seal is the accumulated habit of meeting every discomfort with immediate comfort, every quiet with immediate noise, every emptiness with immediate filling. Sugar is a surface conversation. Toothpaste is a surface conversation. Blue light and fluoride and decalcification protocols are surface conversation. The seal is your relationship to discomfort and hunger. The biological appetite the body cannot lie about is the cleanest, oldest, most consistently documented tool for working with that relationship. Every hour you stay with the hunger and do not feed it, you are doing two things simultaneously. You are training the metabolic machinery and you are practicing the deeper thing, the capacity to be present with an unmet need without immediately meeting it. That practice, repeated enough times, builds something that has no perfect name in modern psychology. The traditions called it many names, right? Equanimity, presence, the open eye, the unsealed instrument. The capacity to receive what is actually here rather than what the management of discomfort keeps in its place. That's where every tradition was actually after. Not hunger for its own sake, but the quality of awareness that becomes available when the loudest ruler in the body has been sat with long enough to stop running the show. The Sufis fasted because they understood that the appetite rules perception. When the appetite is quieted, even temporarily, the perception clarifies. The Hindu tradition described this as the opening of the ajna. The Christian Desert Fathers described this as single eye becoming full of light. The Buddhist tradition described it as the removing of the veil. Different languages, same observation. None of them were claiming magic. They were claiming that the ordinary, available clarity of the human mind, the quality of awareness present in a body that is not constantly being managed, is itself something extraordinary. Because most people have never experienced it, not because they couldn't, but because they were never given the conditions or never chose the conditions themselves. The fast is the conditions. The anchor is the container. The community is the witness. The breaking is the completion. And the clarity, when it arrives, is not something you achieve. It is something uncovered. It was always there. You just stopped covering it. On the episode 8, the synthesis, everything from 7 episodes in one place. What fasting is actually rehearsing and why the answer is the most important thing in this series. So I'll see you there.